I'm also going to take the over.
Oh, see, you're just copying me. You're
No, I'm not.
just kidding.
But there is some math involved in this.
I know. I did some too. I did some too. Wait, I was told there would be no math. Welcome to My Gotta Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I preview Georgia's college football playoff championship matchup with the TCU Horned Frogs in Los Angeles. And we answer questions from you, our listeners. As always, remember to check out store.mygottapodcast.com to see our latest merch. And you can follow us on social media at My Gotta Podcast. Finally, we'd love for you to check out our presenting sponsor, Oxia Time, at oxiatime.com. That's AXIATIME.com. Now, let's join the conversation in progress. Back for another national championship preview.
We're back. We're back, baby. Just when we thought we were out, we pulled ourselves back in.
How about that 2/3 of My Gotta Podcast seasons have included a national championship preview episode? I don't know. I don't know what that means, but it feels like it means something.
Hey, listen, Jim, we didn't have any back-to-back national championship appearances before My Gotta Podcast.
That's right. That's right. How different does this feel than think back a year ago? We're sitting down to do this. For me, it feels incredibly different. It's just such a different situation, like all across the board.
It's very different. It's one of those things that's like, number one, it's, the opponent, and we don't have a whole lot of history of trash talk. There's not a history of, sadness associated with this program, that kind of thing. So
that's true.
It's just one of those things that, I don't know. It kind of feels like, I don't know, the way that I haven't really seen a whole lot of trash talking online. I've seen some really ridiculous memes, like ridiculous in that a sense that they're just like what?
Yeah.
But there hasn't been a whole lot of like vitriol or anything like that. They just seem like they're I don't know. They just seem kind of like a Vanderbilt or something. I don't know.
Well, they're a lot smaller, so there's not as many of them. So I think that's definitely part of it.
They have. I mean, I guess that could probably parlay us into the fun facts. But like, they have one of the top like alumni networks in the country.
Okay. Fair enough. But they're not like they're not like Ohio
News. Yeah.
Ohio State. Michigan. They're not as large as that.
Yeah.
The only thing I came across this thing today where this guy was trying to make a joke about like that people were coming from Athens, and like his joke was that he was using Athens, Greece instead of Athens, Georgia, and was asking how all of our fans were flying so far or something. And I was like, that was your joke? Like, I don't know. It was super lame. Some TCU fan trying to pull that. I don't know. Whatever.
I don't know. It's that Christian Texas Christian comedy, that Waco, Texas kind of vibe. Just goofy.
Well, what did you bring with you this evening? You have a pour?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I have. I don't know if you can. That was a good one. I have a Crown Royal Winter Wheat. This was a bourbon. Yeah. It's not a bourbon. It's a Canadian whiskey technically, but if you might recall, it was around this time last year that I went to Southern Spirits for Carter's soccer trip that he took in January last year.
Yeah.
So I decided to rekindle that vibe from a year ago, and here we are.
Nice. Yeah, that was when I came down. Oh man, I forgot that was that weekend. That was like that because I came and watched Carter's game like the day before I left to go to Indianapolis, right?
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So that was another thing that was happening differently last year.
Yep.
Nice.
So, and much like that, almost a week later. Technically, the North Carolina event is this weekend.
Okay.
However, we've decided not to go to the North Carolina event. We're going to the Tennessee event. That's a week later.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I brought with me the Wild Turkey rare breed. So
wait. So we're getting into the barrel proof. We're getting into the barrel proof.
I wanted to bring something new that I hadn't had on the show before. I'll probably just stick to one, John. I think that was kind of my I thought the end of that. But it was, I was going more for the parallel with the name of Rare Breed, as our dogs are trying to do something that has literally never been done before. So that was my thinking there.
I thought you were going with the just a random mascot like the horny toads.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
wild turkey.
Yeah.
Aren't all turkeys wild?
Well, I thought earlier, I probably could have, if I had waited, I think I did Long Branch earlier in the season. I could have gone with the Texas bourbon to give that matchup, but had already pulled that one out. Was trying to do something I hadn't had before. So
I haven't had any Texas bourbon. Garrison Brothers, I think, is the only one that I'm familiar with. At least I think, unless there's a brand out there that I'm totally blanking on. But Garrison Brothers is a popular Texas bourbon. But
although now that I say that, is Long Branch even technically Texas? Because it is wild turkey too, actually. So maybe I know it's just got the McConaughey influence.
You would have to look.
Anyways,
you would have to look on the back of the bottle. I imagine it's brewed. Distilled in Kentucky.
I think it is. Okay, so for weekend, so I'm gonna go. We talked about that before, and you've made final decision to stay at home and watch, right?
Yeah, we're not able to go.
So do you have any kind of plans? Any kind of watching plans? It's a Monday night, so I know you got like work and school the next day and everything.
Yeah, I don't think so. Well, I think we're just gonna kind of watch it here. My neighbor down the road is supposed to work. He works at the fire station. I think that he said he was going to try to get off, but I don't know. We may end up watching it together, but nothing substantial. I was thinking about that. Like I saw on the Dog Central thread that there was a meetup at Park Tavern in Piedmont Park for a watch party. So that got me thinking, like, I wonder if there was any watch parties around here.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. Probably not. I'll probably just be watching at home with Carter.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's, what I usually do for the national championship. Although I have been to so I've been to all three, actually. That George made the first one was a lot easier because it was in Atlanta. So that was different. It was just a drive headed down there with my dad. So yeah. But yeah. So first time going with heading out with my sister to LA. So we're heading out Sunday and we'll be heading home Tuesday. So looking forward to it. Little
brother sister action, huh?
Yeah. That'll be fun. That'll be fun. We'll have a good time. For sure.
I'm a little jealous. I was looking at the options to try to go and fly into Phoenix and drive from Phoenix to LA because the tickets were much cheaper into Phoenix. And if you are flying into Phoenix, I would love to live vicariously through you to take your pictures at Joshua Tree on the way.
Nice.
But it's apparently it's a good drive according to Graham.
Right. Yeah, I certainly have not done that. I think I have a layover in Phoenix actually, but I am flying into LA. So no direct flights for me, unfortunately. But is what it is. But yeah, so I learned my lesson. So something we didn't so much talk about, like I learned my lesson last year because last year, like I waited to book the flight. I was thinking about like, as John Tweed says, not being superstitious, but being a little superstitious. I thought it was like bad luck to book travel beforehand. And then when I found out what a pain it was, we went in and booked everything. I mean, we did like, things that were refundable with plane tickets and hotel and everything. So yeah, so we're all ready to go. So
good stuff.
Done over the Christmas break. All right. You wanna head into the matchup?
Do you want to do fun facts or what are we doing?
We'll do that at the end of the matchup.
Okay.
We'll roll right into that. So, all right. So for the matchup, kickoff Monday, January 9th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. But if you're going to be there, don't forget it's 4:30 Pacific. So don't get 7:30 in your head and then show up to the game late. The game is at SoFi Stadium, which is in Inglewood, California. 2022 records: Georgia 14-0, 8-0 in the SEC. TCU 13-1. Technically 9-0 in the Big 12. Their only loss coming in the Big 12 championship game and a rematch against Kansas State. All time in this series, Georgia leads the series 4-0. So like you said, have not played these guys many times, but have played them more, than we had played Ohio State. Rankings wise, in the CFP, obviously, so this is 1 versus 3. Dogs coming at number 1. TCU is number 3. We're on big ESPN again. So you got Chris Fowler, Herb Street. The analysts will be Holly Rowe and Molly McGrath on the sideline. And again, remember, you've got the big mega broadcast. So if you want to listen to the hometown version with Scott Howard, Eric Zier, and DJ Shockley, you can catch that on the SEC network. Official hashtag, there are 2 this time. So hashtag national championship, as well as hashtag CFP playoff. So you can go with either of those. I think they both have the little special emoji thing that comes at the end of them. And then as far as the weather, the game will be played indoors, but for tailgating purposes, et cetera, if you're there, low of 51, high of 61. There is rain in the forecast. So again, if you're going to be out there tailgating, might want a poncho or a rain jacket or something along those lines. So that's it for that. So we can go to the fun facts. I have a couple of more things on the matchup, John, that I can drop on you. See if you have these.
I have a couple of comments about the matchup. You saw the uproar about the no tailgating today on the socials. That was yes. a big surprise to me. I really don't understand why we continue to pick these terrible cities where you can't even have a good experience with the tailgating. College, it's on a Monday, you're already you're screwing with the overall vibe of college football. Then you take away the tailgate atmosphere. That's kind of sucky.
I will say the no tailgating thing. So it's basically if you're parking in an official SoFi Stadium managed parking lot, they're saying you can't tailgate in those lots. So if you want to tailgate, you have to be elsewhere is what it sounds like. You have to be off of the official property or something. So I think we're going to be posted up kind of across the street from one of the edge parking lots, right? Where we're not on the property. So shout out to Greg, as always, ATD tailgate heading west. So Melissa and my sister and I will be out there posted up with Greg for that. So
right.
But yeah. So that was weird. I did see I think it was Skinny said, they can't arrest all of us.
They can't arrest all of us.
I was they're gonna be SoFi Stadium people are gonna be no tailgating, and I feel like Georgia fans are gonna be officer, hold my beer, and just tailgate anyways. So I don't know, we'll see how that goes.
I'm sorry, officer. Here, hold this bottle of bourbon while I pack up.
right, exactly. So this is interesting. This actually Georgia football tweeted this out today. So you may have already heard of this, John. I don't know if you've seen this yet. So Georgia has played in 60 bowl games all time, but the first bowl game that Georgia ever played in was the 1942 Orange Bowl, which was a 40-26 win over TCU. So they were our first ever bowl opponent in the Orange Bowl 42. And then I'm going to frame this one as a trivia question to you, John, to see. And this is to illustrate how far we've come. So in the 2016 Liberty Bowl, Kirby Smart's first Georgia team defeated TCU 31-23. Do you know who the play-by-play announcer was of that game on ESPN?
The play-by-play announcer on ESPN?
Mm-hmm. For the 2016 Liberty Bowl. It was Beth Mowins. It was Beth Mowins. So just goes to show again, thinking how far we've come. And I guess you could say that for both programs, right? So we go from playing in the 2016 Liberty Bowl to a national championship matchup. That close is pretty cool.
So here's the caveat that I would add on that. Yes, this is how far we've come or whatever, but I would say that TCU since about 2000, I think was when Gary Patterson was hired. Mm-hmm. Ever since Gary Patterson was hired, they've had some serious highs and some fairly low lows. I think they had a couple of losing seasons. They had one season they didn't go to a bowl game. But on the whole, Gary Patterson was a shortlisted candidate for taking over for Kirby Smart.
Yeah. You mean for Mark Richt?
For Mark Richt, sorry. Yeah. Taking Kirby Smart's job. I remember there were guys that were calling for Gary Patterson to come to be the head coach because he was he's very fiery. He's kind of like Kirby. I don't know. Yeah. I just remember there were a few years it was TCU is good again. No, they're not.
Right. Yep. Yep. I got one more thing I'll hit you with. Just on their head coach, Sonny Dykes. So he's in his first year as the head coach at TCU. Like you just said, he replaced Gary Patterson. So here's some interesting connections. So in 1997, he was a grad assistant at Kentucky,
Mhm.
and Mike Leach was on that staff. In 2000, Dykes went to Texas Tech to be the wide receiver coach for Mike Leach, and he eventually became Mike Leach's co-offensive coordinator in 2005. And then and just mentioning that with the we've talked about Mike Leach so much, the actually on the podcast the whole time, but obviously with rest in peace, Coach Leach. And the other thing is Sonny Dykes, his first head coaching job was at Louisiana Tech in 2010, replacing one Derek Dooley after
I was
Derek
about to say
Dooley
Derek Dooley,
left.
yeah.
Yeah, after he left Louisiana Tech to go take the Tennessee job. So that's all I had, John, on my that's my contributions to the fun facts.
Oh, nice. Well, we got the coaching tree taken care of. I like it. Well, it may surprise you to know, but TCU was not always named TCU. Can you tell me what they were originally known as?
I don't know, but I'm gonna guess they were not like an A&M school like all the other ones were.
They were not an A&M school. Yeah, so they were called Adran Christian University.
Okay.
And I guess that at some point along the way, like it was founded by two brothers that actually fought for the Confederacy, interestingly enough.
Hmm.
But I guess after they got back from the war, they decided to come up with a Christian-based college in Texas that would be non-denominational for the most part. But then they did affiliate with some church. I can't. I've lost it. It was somewhere in the notes, but it's a Christian-based university, very small now. But yeah, I for some reason I thought that I feel like this is like a legend or something like that. But like I thought that they had changed the name from the Horn to the Horned Frogs or whatever, like as like a student like voting thing. But like they've always been the Horned Frogs.
Oh, really? Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, like
I just found it. It's oh, sorry. Now I lost it after the Disciples of Christ is the
Disciples of Christ. Yes. Whatever that means. I don't know. Never heard of it.
I haven't either.
It's sorry. Waco, Texas. So it could be, they could be passing out grape juice at any point. I don't know.
Well, there's the thing. They're not in Waco though. They were there at one point. They're in Fort Worth.
They were there. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
They were.
Fun fact. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, they've always been the Horned Frogs. They've always been purple and white. There were no colors, no color changes. I didn't see any like rationale on why, but supposedly like the Horned Frogs situation came about when I guess when the football team kind of first took the field. The field itself was like infested or covered with horned frogs.
Really?
Yeah. So it was kind of like a namesake as well as just a fun name. I guess there's a lot of horned frogs, or I always thought it would kind of look like a bearded dragon, but that's just beyond the point. Yeah. So that's that. Let's see here. Let's see. So other fun facts that I have. They have this weird chant that I guess they do, which I was unaware of until I started like researching these guys. They have like a Ramma Jamma Yellowhammer kind of cheer that the Bammers do. So that's kind of weird, right? So we played Alabama last year, and now we're playing TCU, and they have a similar like, what in the heck are you talking about type of cheer.
Okay.
Riff ram bazoo, lickety lickety zoo zoo, hoo wah wah hoo, give them hell TCU.
Interesting. I never heard of that.
I didn't know about this either. It's one of the first things that comes up on there. Like, these are our traditions and part of the history or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna report back. I'm gonna let you know if I hear that at all when I'm
I mean, the video that they have is like apparently it's like one of those kind of like where they have like a celebrity dot the I or whatever. Apparently they have a celebrity come out and like do the chant or whatever. So I'd be interested to see what they have.
Yeah. Interesting.
Let's see here. What's the other one? Yeah, they also have this weird like it'll be interesting to see like because we're known for like barking at people or whatever. They have this like
Yes.
hand gesture, which I guess is like a Big 12 kind of thing. Like, they have the horns down and the hook 'em horns, and then you got the Texas Tech guys with the finger guns or whatever.
Right.
And I guess TCU has this like it's like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like you put your index finger and your middle finger up and like bend them into like a I don't know like a tarantula bite, and you're like, go frogs. Like what?
Weird.
What is that? I have no idea what that's about. But yeah, they have like this hand gesture that they do that it'll be interesting.
Okay.
I don't know.
So if anyone does the hand gesture to me, I am to bark back at them. Is that?
Yeah.
Do you think that? I
say,
feel like that's fair.
I would say bark back at them and see what happens or whatever.
Nice.
I don't know if there's like an insult that you could do. Like, can you do frogs down?
I don't know. My question was like, did they spell frogs FRAWGS? But they apparently do not, from what I can tell.
I don't know. I haven't
really seen it like that anywhere. They just use normal spelling, I guess.
I haven't seen anything. Yeah, I think that was it. For some reason, I feel like I'm missing something from my notes or whatever. But yeah, they're a small school. We have about 12,000 students.
That was all over that was all over the Fiesta Bowl broadcast. Like they kept showing like the difference in size of TCU as compared to Michigan. Like they kept laying into that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they'll do that on this one at all. We'll have to check the broadcast for that.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will.
All right. Nice with the fun facts as always. I've got
not quite as fun as I was hoping.
That's okay. Well, yeah.
a Christian college. I thought I was expecting to see a little bit more interesting, interesting roots.
That's okay. That's okay. Let's do the news and notes. Don't have a ton here. One thing, just news piece. I don't know. Did you see the plane that the team's going to fly in? So like Delta dedicated a plane to Vince Dooley.
I did.
It's got like his signature on it. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. So team will be flying out to LA in style in a Vince Dooley dedicated plane. So that was pretty cool. I read through Kirby's most recent press conference. I'm just going to hit really on the injury stuff because everything else was I don't know. Nothing else was like super interesting to me that what I read through. So I'll just go on the injuries. So there's actually had been a question about Arian Smith, and he was talking about like how Arian had kind of filled in for Ladd a bit on a few things, just on getting some of his reps in the practices leading up to the Peach Bowl. But then in that, he said that like basically heading up to the Peach Bowl, he said that Ladd looked good. He looked good in warm-ups to the Peach Bowl and was able to go and play. Then he said, we're hoping he's even better this week. So take that for what it's worth. He had a follow-up question about Darnell Washington, about Warren McClendon and Chaz Chambliss. And then he said, yeah, we're hopeful to get all those guys back. So basically Kirby is hopeful on everyone. So we'll see. We'll see. Although like we didn't expect to see AD Mitchell like we did last week. So will be interesting to watch. Apparently Sonny Dykes subscribes to the same method of answering questions. So if you're not aware, TCU's leading rusher, Kendre Miller, got injured in the Fiesta Bowl against Michigan. And so obviously Sonny Dykes got asked about his status, and he said, we're hopeful to get Kendre back. As the week progresses, we'll know a little bit more. So that's all he had said. So I don't know if Kirby and Sonny Dykes have been talking. I do know that Kirby definitely opened his press conference with that he the typical got a lot of respect for Sonny Dykes and TCU. So we got that one in there as well.
Yeah, man, he's coming in. He's got a loaded roster too. I've seen some folks talking about how I think it was it Brett Rollins who was talking about that TCU might have more people drafted in the NFL than UGA in this class.
Really interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they have their best running back suit up, because that will definitely change the game. I think I texted you when I was watching this the TCU versus Michigan game, like as a rewatch in preparation for looking at these jokers. When Kendre Miller went down, TCU was winning like 21-9, I think, or 21-3. I can't remember.
Mhm.
But when he went down, it felt like it was like a shift in momentum for sure, because then obviously, Michigan kind of mounted a comeback, but
Right. Right.
it definitely gave them more of an opportunity, because I feel like that TCU started to kind of shut things down a little bit.
Right. Yeah. It was just a little bit of a too little too late, I guess, with Michigan. But that game was wild. It was absolutely wild. But I mean, too, like if that touchdown doesn't get overturned, at the beginning, if they don't run that crazy end around, Michigan did a lot of, well, they had some self-inflicted wounds, and plus that one call was awful. But whatever.
2 pick sixes, and apparently the goal line is where Michigan's drives go to die.
Nice. All right, let's hit the usual. Let's get into the game. Let's talk about the Georgia offense and the TCU defense. So just I'll run down some things in the TCU defense, and then we can talk about what we're looking for here. So their leading tackler is Johnny Hodges. He's a linebacker. He's got 81 tackles in the season. They've got a defensive lineman named Dylan Horton. He leads TCU and the Big 12 in sacks with 10 sacks on the season. And then they've also got a guy named D. Winters. He's a linebacker. He's second on TCU in sacks and third in the Big 12 with 7.5 sacks on the season. And then Bud Clark is a safety. He leads the team and is second in the Big 12 with 5 interceptions. And they've also have 2 corners in Travius Hodges Tomlinson and Josh Newton. They both have 3 interceptions on the season. The defense against the Power 5 has been allowing 26.58 points per game. And then that scoring impact, right? What I've talked about with Georgia. So Georgia's offense is at this point is now scoring 12.128 more points per game against Power 5 teams than they tend to allow. So John, what are you looking for? What are you looking for when Georgia's on offense?
What was the points that they were giving up?
26.58 points per game against the Power 5.
And we're impacting it by 12?
By adding 12. That's the average.
Wow.
We score 12 more points against teams than teams tend to allow against the Power than they average allowing the Power 5. That's what the stats. That's just straight, averages throughout the season for Georgia.
I'm looking ahead at my predictions, and maybe I'm seeing why that would be the case.
Gotcha.
Okay, so things that I'm looking for. So you mentioned 2 players that I felt like I saw flying around the field against Michigan.
Okay.
Hodges Tomlinson, or whatever, who is, I believe that he is the son of LaDainian Tomlinson.
LaDainian Tomlinson? Really? God, we're so old. I can't now. So now we've got we played Marvin Harrison's son last week.
Yeah. So I mean, LaDainian Tomlinson went to TCU. So
yeah,
I made an assumption in that. I didn't actually research that, but I mean, the math checks out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You look it up while I talk. So Tomlinson was all over the place. I felt like he was flying to the ball. He was crashing down on runners. Like, he was doing everything, I felt like. And then you mentioned Dean Winters. Dean Winters is he was the impact player of the game, in my opinion. He had 2 pick sixes.
Wow. Yeah.
He was the guy that intercepted them twice for touchdowns, and he was having sacks. Like, those 2 guys were flying all over the place. So those are some things that I'm looking for.
Okay. I can quickly interrupt and update you. He is LaDainian Tomlinson's nephew.
Okay.
Yeah. Continue.
I was close. Yeah. So I think that's definitely something that I'm going to be looking for. On paper. Like, I feel, and from what I saw with Michigan, I felt like Michigan had a lot more success running the ball against TCU than they did passing the ball, which I guess because they had 2 pick sixes. But
sure.
Michigan by and large, for the most part, kind of is a pretty close comparable from an opponent standpoint. We're very similar to Michigan in terms of what we bring to the table from a defense standpoint, and from an offensive standpoint, we're probably a little bit better. But All things being equal, you just look at the comparables there, and I feel like that we could run the ball on these guys. I feel like we could run the ball even more on Ohio State. There was a little bit of getting away from that in the game with some of the timing of how everything was working for us. But I would love to see us just come out and pound the rock and protect the ball is really what I would like to see. Like the less that we ask Stetson to do and the less we ask him to be an impact in the game is probably going to be safer for us, because TCU is actually like one of the top teams in the country. I think they're number 10 in the country in terms of total interceptions on the season. And again, it kind of goes back to this whole conversation that we've had all season long is if we protect the ball, we're going to win this game.
Yeah. So TCU is they're +9 in the turnover margin on the season. Yeah, I mean that's what I've seen is they appear to be like I don't know. I feel like their defense is kind of like looking to cause havoc, cause turnovers and then capitalize on it. One thing actually that I forgot to mention earlier, I said Kirby didn't say anything interesting. One thing he did say was about their defense. So TCU, most people, I think they're all like, or at least head coach and the coordinators are all first year there, right? So their defensive coordinator is Joe Gillespie. He came from Tulsa. This is his first Power 5 coordinator job at TCU this year. But so he runs a 3-3-5 defense. And Mississippi State also runs a 3-3-5 defense. And so Kirby did get asked about that. Like, could they glean anything from the Mississippi State game to learn and then apply here to TCU? And he actually said no. So he said like Mississippi State is very different. He said Mississippi State is not really a 3-3-5 compared to these guys. So whatever that means. He didn't go to it a whole lot more than that. But so, it is a bit of a different style of defense. The only thing, so what you're telling me, John, because my question was around like, I mean, Stetson he's 3 for 3. He's played in 3 college football playoff games. He's been the offensive MVP of every single one. You're telling me you don't think he's going to go 4 for 4? You think we're going to have like a running back maybe?
I mean, it's certainly in the arena.
Yeah,
I would say that it wouldn't surprise me. Let's just say this. It wouldn't surprise me, but what I want to see from the outset is how can we establish dominance along the offensive line? And then, it's like that age old, like, does the run set up the pass and the pass set up the run and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
I would prefer that the run set up the pass in this particular game. I'd like to, I don't know. I see a lot of different stats going around with like, all our different scoring metrics and, what the predicted scores are for this and that. And everybody seems to think that we're going to score a lot of points.
Mm.
The flip side of that is that not everybody seems to think that TCU is going to score a lot of points. So in my head, I feel like that based on what I've seen in the numbers, that if they are scoring a lot of points, then that means that we're probably messing up in terms of giving them extra possessions that they wouldn't normally have, kind of thing. But that's just my 2 cents. Like, I would feel much better for Kenny McIntosh to have 100 yards rushing in the first half, kind of thing.
I definitely feel, and I know like I think Graham mentioned this in his 15 takeaways. They were extra for a playoff game. About how much like Kenny McIntosh had the hot hand against Ohio State, and like let's feed him the ball. And I totally agree with that. I mean, he was, again, like we said, other than the turf monster, which that was pretty random. I mean, he was lights out. I would love to see him getting the ball in the perimeter and running everything.
I didn't mention this on the review, but I did feel like that, talking about the turf monster, I did feel like that there was some weirdness going on with the turf at the bins. It felt like that there was a lot more like of those rubber pellets flying around than I feel like I normally see.
They definitely flew when Kenny fell. It was big time. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, this is a different stadium, but and talking about the turf, like I think the Michigan and TCU played on natural turf, I believe, in the in the Fiesta Bowl. So it'll be interesting to see what they look like indoors, what Duggan, whatever his name is, look like indoors as well. We have the age old mantra, Stetson indoors, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
And then you've got the Stetson numbers that people have been kind of honing in on. And Stetson in the fourth quarter is pretty much an automatic like perfection, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know as much about these guys. But yeah, I mean, there was definitely, watching the Michigan game, like once Michigan caught fire, I mean, they were almost unstoppable too. Like, like that third quarter, I think it was the third quarter, there was like 44 points scored or something between the two teams. So I feel like there will be the opportunities will be there. I'm really interested around Darnell. Kirby said he was hopeful. I don't know how hopeful I am. But just his blocking, because I do wonder around Brock Bowers, right? Like having they maybe stay back and protect more, etc. Having Darnell is helpful there. Although the flip side of that is, if you know something going in, right? So like last week we were practicing assuming Darnell would be there. If we're practicing assuming he won't be, if they know that, right, then Delp I think would be more ready to get in there and block and help with that extra protection as well. So,
or at least preparing a little bit more for it, right? The other thing is. Talking about the tight end room, like you heard it on the broadcast, like Herbie questioning like where Brock Bowers was, where's Brock Bowers?
Yeah.
Well, apparently, come to find out, like Brock's been sick.
Yeah.
Which was not something that came out publicly. But over on Dog Central, if you're a follower, you'd know that information. So definitely head on over to Dog Central for all of the insider info there. Which that tracks with kind of how things kind of went. So another week to have him, healed up and feeling better. I'm hoping that he has a breakout game, because those are some things like I think we talked about this, like, and from what I saw with TCU, it may not necessarily match up with what I was thinking that we would be looking for from Brock. Like I saw Michigan gash TCU just up the gut, which is like totally anti JP, like run it up the gut with this offensive line. I know that I've eaten my crow on the offensive line already this season, but like they got gashed. Like Michigan was able to put work in when they were running up the middle, and they were running the ball really well, from what I saw. And then eventually later in the game, all that running success up the middle eventually equated to running success outside. I know their quarterback McCarthy or whatever, he had a big scamper, kind of very Stetson-esque, a big scamper towards the end of the game. That was a huge gain. I'll be looking for some opportunities for Stetson to be pulling it there. A couple other looks that TCU was giving the UGA offense, like they looked like they were susceptible to the flea flicker. We have a wide receiver named Arian Smith who's healthy now, and I think I texted you this, Jim, but if they're showing a propensity to crash down on the runners, if we give them a heavy dose over 3 quarters or whatever, and then you hit them with a flea flicker with Arian Smith running deep, I feel like that would be like one of those back-breaking plays in the fourth quarter that we could throw out at them. Other things. So the one thing that does like concern me, like from their defensive standpoint, is their ability to move quickly to close down those outside passes, like swing passes and bubble screens and things like that. TCU was able to shut a lot of that stuff down. They blew up a lot of lateral plays, but they were susceptible deep. That was definitely one thing. That was definitely one thing that I noticed in the film review with Michigan.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming Monken's gonna, Stetson's gonna spread the ball around to the plethora of receivers like we always do. Yeah. Interested to see. Yeah. That you bring up a good point around like where it will be curious to see if we kind of throw to open the pass, which is what we did throw to open up the run, which I think that's kind of how we started off against Ohio State, right? Like we came out just throwing on that first drive, or did we come out and kind of test them up the gut with the run? So we'll be watching for that. Cool.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I feel like that the answers there, like if you look at these guys, like have a lot of explosiveness, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we come out running the ball pretty heavy to start the game, that tells me that Kirby's very confident in being able to figure out how to stop them from an offensive standpoint, because we're going to be trying to slow the game down from the get-go, wear them down. They may have these ballers. They have these players in the starting lineup, right? But when it comes to the third and second string and fourth string or whatever, like where do they have the depth? Do they have the horses in the barn, so to speak, to run with our depth? And I like our depth. And it's one of those things where if you look at two teams and they look, statistically similar, like good on good, I think that the one, ironically, even though I'm sitting here saying like I think we should run the ball, like I think one of their weakest links was the passing game on the TCU defense side. But like you look at the numbers that Stats of War puts out there, and it's like, oh yeah, everything looks pretty even except for a handful of areas here and there. But then you would immediately go to the blue chip ratio, and we are vastly superior in that regard. Right.
Makes sense. Cool. All right. Well, before we get to the defense, let's take a moment to remind everyone that season 3 of My Gotta Podcast is presented by Oxia Time. Oxia Time is a custom watch company. You've got to check out their college football playoff collection. So they've got the 2021 Georgia National Championship collection. They've got the 2022 college football playoff selection. And John, actually, something I noticed, John Canaris, founder of Oxia Time, he didn't even tell me this. I was out on the collegefootballplayoff.com. I was kind of perusing like what kind of CFP stuff they had. I was actually checking to see if they already had any like CFP pullovers, like if I could get a pullover that had like the CFP logo and the Georgia logo, for example. I didn't come across that, but you know what I did come across was an Oxia Time watch. So they're out there on like in the merchant shop on collegefootballplayoff.com. Much easier way to go check them out is to go over to oxiatime.com. That's AXIATIME.com. Everything is officially licensed through both the college football playoff as well as any universities that they are working with. So they've got the Georgia watch, they've got TCU watch with the 2023 CFP logo on that as well. So be sure to check them out. And thanks again to Oxia Time for being the presenting sponsor for season 3.
Absolutely. Heard a Oxia Time ad on the hometown radio network for TCU while I was doing my research, which was wild to hear.
Oh, that's funny. Oh man. All right. Let's talk about the Georgia defense and that TCU offense. So TCU's offense is led by Max Duggan. So John, it is Duggan. It is not Dugan. I looked that up, and
I don't know why I just naturally want to call him Dugan. Like, is there like a TV character or like a cartoon character from back in the day called Dugan?
I don't know what it is. But I did notice, well, I mean, one, they say it on the broadcast. I know you mentioned that they were saying Duggan on the hometown. On the TCU, on like their official, athletic website, they have the little ear icon where you can hear their play-by-play guy say people's names like Georgia Dogs used to have. So, if anyone in the university is listening, would like to bring that back. I was a big fan of the Scott Howard pronunciations. So TCU has that. At any rate, Max Duggan, Heisman Trophy finalist, finished second in the Heisman Trophy voting. So he actually finished one slot ahead of CJ Stroud. He's 259 of 397 on the year. That's 63.7% completion percentage. He's thrown for 3,546 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 6 picks. He also has 127 carries for 461 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns. Kendre Miller is their leading rusher, 224 carries for 1,399 yards, 17 touchdowns. But as we talked about, he did get injured in the Fiesta Bowl, and he is, as Sonny Dyke said, he is hopeful to get him back. If he's not able to go, we probably see this guy anyway. So Amari DeMercado has 107 carries for 622 yards and 6 touchdowns in the year. He was the leading rusher against Michigan. He had 17 carries and 150 yards and a touchdown against Michigan. But as John, I think as you pointed out, a lot of that was on one chunk rush, I think, right? He ripped off a pretty long one.
Yeah. What was his name?
DeMarcado.
Mark.
Amari DeMarcado. See, I didn't. I should have listened to the pronunciation guide for his name.
DeMarcado or something like that.
Yeah. And then let's see at receiver, Quentin Johnston is their leading receiver, 59 catches for 1,066 yards and 6 touchdowns. Looking at the numbers, so their offense averages 39.5 points per game against the Power 5. The Georgia defense, though, on average is holding teams to 12.98 points less per game than they score against the Power 5. Again, since this is a brand new team, like we never played them or haven't played them in a while, brand new staff. So their offensive coordinator actually is Garrett Riley. He is the younger brother of USC head coach Lincoln Riley. He actually won the Broyles Award this year. That goes to the nation's best assistant. If you'll recall, Todd Monken was a finalist, but Garrett Riley actually won it. And he also, another Mike Leach connection. Garrett Riley actually played at Texas Tech in 2008 and 2009. He was a quarterback, but he never attempted a pass. All right, JP, what are you looking at out of Max Duggan in this TCU offense? What are you looking for our defense to do to stop him?
So I think that what we're going to be looking at here is a situation where we have some experience, trying to cut down a mobile, scrappy quarterback from Kirby's time with Kirby's game with Oklahoma. So I think we're going to be looking this offense and defense battle is going to begin and end with what Max Duggan is able to do. If he's able to break free from pressure like CJ Stroud was. CJ Stroud was pretty successful at doing that, getting away from stepping up in the pocket and all those things. But he is not as fast as Max Duggan. So if Max breaks free on some of those types of wide open spaces, if you will, then he's probably going to be gashing us pretty dramatically. So I'm going to be looking for our ability to stop the run first and foremost, like period, end of story. Whether it's Max running the ball or if Kendre is able to go, or DeMarcado, if he's able to come in, whoever they throw at us, we got to be able to stop the run. And if you can do that, if you can keep them one-dimensional to where they have to rely on the passing game, which for all of the faults that we have all season long, most of the bitching and moaning, sorry Carter, has been most of the bitching and moaning has been on the passing game, right? Like we can't defend the pass, and we're complaining about Kelee Ringo, which by the way, like someone pointed out, like some major stats on Kelee Ringo. Like as much as we give him grief, like he played really well in the last game.
He did.
He's going to be asked to do a lot in this game as well. So all of our woes on the defense typically are surrounded around the passing game. So that being said, like if we can continue to hold serve, which by forcing them into situations, I think they showed a stat like Ohio State at one point had like some ridiculously low number of yards rushing at halftime, and basically the running game was just never really a factor until CJ broke out of the pocket. That was really the only times it was ever a problem for us. So just getting hands on, getting bodies on gaps, getting bodies into the gaps to close those running lanes down. I think if I'm Kirby Smart, because from what I saw, when they were able to stop Max Duggan from running, and when they were able to stop the run, like he's an accurate passer, and he's obviously a great quarterback, but like I mean, I saw him sky some balls. Like he missed throws left and right, like getting pressure on him. Like if we were to force him into being a one-dimensional quarterback, like I feel like I really like our chances.
Yeah, and I think the big difference here is like, if you just think about the way we're talking about this, and obviously the coaches know a lot more than we do, but no one was expecting CJ Stroud to run like he did, right? Like that, I don't know how much of the game plan, how much went into the game plan of like stopping CJ Stroud scrambling and taking off, right? Like it's one thing about like moving around in the pocket. It's another thing about him taking off. And that's just not, that wasn't his MO like all year. With Duggan, that is what he does. I mean, the guy runs, they put the ball in his hands a lot. I mean, if they're down there near the goal line or if they're in a short yardage situation, they're lining him up. He's taking the direct snap and he's running. Like that is what they do.
Yeah.
That's their bread and butter. So like we're going to have a plan to stop him running. Whereas I don't know that we would have thought to have a plan to stop CJ Stroud running. So that's what makes me feel better about that there. I think the other thing
they do have a tendency. They do have a tendency that I saw a couple of times where if they do get into that goal line situation, and maybe they'll throw a wrinkle at us in this game because especially if they get desperate, right? So they were showing tendencies to do where when they get down to a goal line situation, they have a wide receiver. I think it was Johnston. It was one of the wide receivers, like 6'5", 200 something pounds or whatever.
Yeah.
They have him run in from out wide and basically line up directly behind Max Duggan. And Duggan snaps the ball and it's a quarterback sneak and he just serves as like a snowplow of sorts to just try to push Max into the end zone.
Yeah.
That was how they scored one of their passes, one of their plays. And apparently like one of the announcers was talking about like this is what they do in the goal line.
Yeah. They actually talked about the fact that
kind of like when we get into the goal line situation and we throw Jalen Carter out there, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that the other day that we haven't seen the jumbo package in a while, but I digress. I think one of the things they talked about was the fact that they didn't do that at the end of the Kansas State game in the Big 12 championship when they had a chance to win it. They didn't try that. They went another route and it didn't work. So definitely watching that. The other thing, again, like, maybe it's just being too much recency bias or focusing on their most recent game too much, but a lot of poor tackling from Michigan in that game. There was a lot of bad angles taken where like a TCU player would make one guy miss and then he's gone. I just feel like we're a better tackling team than that.
We're not going to make those same mistakes for sure,
yeah.
Especially with Christopher Smith and Keely Ringo. I mean, you may catch the ball, you may get some yards on us, but like pretty much immediately you're going to be going down. There's not a whole lot of yak going on here.
Yeah. And something I feel like we probably didn't mention enough in the Peach Bowl review was Christopher Smith. The guy was, he was out there hitting hard. I feel like he's become he's like bringing the wood this season that I didn't see that as much in his career before this season. It's been fun to watch his growth through his career.
I would tend to agree.
Okay. Let me see.
So some other things that I'm looking for from the defense. So Smile Munden had a great game in a sense that like not only was he able to generate pressure and have a good game, but there were plays that he was making against Ohio State where he would impact the play in such a way where he's getting penetration on his guy when he's blitzing, and he's able to veer his man. He may not get to the quarterback, but he's able to veer his man to prevent the quarterback from stepping up in the pocket and making a play with his legs or making a pass downfield, etc. There was a couple of plays in particular that I remember, and one which like Michael Williams was able to get home on a sack where Smile pushed his man basically into the run lane that CJ Stroud would have normally been able to step away from that blitz, which allowed Michael to come through and just blast.
Yeah. I know we had texted about this a little bit, right around like, again, with Duggan and his propensity to run, kind of assuming we're going to spy someone. You think that would be Smile potentially, or maybe Jamon Dumas-Johnson?
I would probably say that would be tasked with Dumas-Johnson, but I do think that you are going to have some spy plays, particularly in like a 3rd and long situation.
Yeah.
I would think that would probably be Johnson. Whoever the fastest one is, I believe that would be Johnson, but it's going to have to be someone that's able to get lateral quick in a Roquan Smith kind of vein. Like I said, I think that this tracks like this tracks like the Oklahoma game where we're trying to game plan around Baker Mayfield kind of thing.
Interesting, because I brought that up last week, and you said Ohio State didn't feel like it, but you feel like this, or you're just saying like from the whole like around a single player kind of deal.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't feel like that for Ohio State because it wasn't on the film.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
His mobility wasn't on the film. I mean, it's
Right.
now
Yeah.
on the film, so I might say something different, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, you figure, and it goes back to what we talked about. Like, literally everything went wrong. Not only did everything go wrong from a situation where we had guys in wrong positions, making wrong fits, like running the wrong routes, whatever happened. Like, and that includes like guys over pursuing, and that includes guys like Jalen Carter, like basically breaking free from his block and just downhill sprinting at the quarterback, where all he has to do is take a sidestep and you're dead to rights. You know what I mean? Like, I'd like to see if we have those situations where we break it down and just like force them to do something, make the quarterback make a decision that's going to make or break their play, not allow him to break free and then all of a sudden he has like an infinite amount of time to throw to a wide receiver 50-yard downfield, which he can absolutely throw that ball. I think that's you can't have those broken plays, because he's gonna punish us if we have those broken plays.
Yeah, and well, that's where again I think the word that pressure comes into play, and like you were just talking about, just like actually getting to the quarterback and like actually affecting him, because you mentioned Kelee Ringo having a good game against Ohio State, and he did, and like I think he only gave up like one touchdown, and the one touchdown I think Stroud had like 7 seconds, I think, before he threw the ball. Like, no one can cover that long, especially not with the guys that Ohio State was running out there. So having that pressure, getting on him, they don't have like the 2 1,000-yard receivers coming in like Ohio State did. But yeah, I think similar here, right? Like with wearing down and in depth, we saw a lot of young guys get action against Ohio State, and we'll see how healthy everyone can get back. We'll see how much of those young guys we see against TCU, kind of depending on health and everything. So
the other thing that I saw Michigan do really well, especially later in the game, and frankly, we had similar success as well. I think that in the 12 takeaways, Graham was talking about how we were giving them too soft of a zone, and we changed things up in the second half, where we started like pressing coverage, and then we also layered that on with like no holds barred blitzing. And so that's definitely something that I noticed with Michigan, was when they brought 5-6 guys, it caused Dugan to have problems, and they got home pretty easily on several of those blitz packages in the second half. Like, I think that there could be so if I'm Kirby, I'm probably mapping this out to try to grind out a little bit and then start bringing things home and just lay the hammer down later in the game. So I expect like early runs, see what they can do, see what they're made out of, like run your packages out there. And then, if it's working, great. If it's not, obviously they would pivot, but like, if it's working, like I would then release the hounds later in the game, because when he gets to a position where he's got to throw the ball, if you bring the house, like he doesn't do well with it. He doesn't do well with the blitzes.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Let's hit a couple of special teams things. So just kind of knowing your opponent. So their place kicker is a guy named Griffin Kell. He was 61 of 63 on extra points on the season and 17 of 19 on field goals. He had a long of 54 yards. But he was 50%. So he only kicked 2 over 50. He made that 54-yarder. He missed the other. Jordy Sandy is the punter. He's got a 40.1 yard average. That's 10th in the Big 12. So not super high there. They do have a good kick returner. So Darius Davis, he's a wide receiver. He led the Big 12 in punt return yards, with 268 yards returning punts in the season, with 2 punt returns for touchdowns. He's also second in the Big 12 on kickoff returns. He averages 25.7 yards per kickoff return. So watch out for that. other thing, reminder, one of the things we talked about earlier in the year, I think I mentioned it as like the moment of the week that it happened, that when they like ran that like fire drill field goal to beat Baylor when they had no timeouts, ran the whole team off, ran the special teams on, lined it up and made the field goal. So
The
definitely know
TCU
they've got a
guys?
yeah. Remember, so at the end of the Baylor game, they were out of
Okay.
timeouts and they had that like fire drill where they ran the special teams on and kicked that field goal and made it like kind of at the horn to beat them. So I think they're a well coached unit, I guess is where I'm going there.
So yeah, that actually tracks with one of the things that I noticed, and I was curious about. Like, it's interesting that you brought that up because that was one thing that I noticed about the special teams units when I was watching that Michigan game. So the Michigan game, I watched the all 22 view, which
Mhm.
I may end up watching that. I don't. Do they have the same announcers on the all 22, or is it
I
just
think they
like?
put the ESPN radio announcers, I believe.
Yeah, see, that was the only drawback is that
Yeah.
the announcers sucked.
Yeah.
But the all 22 view is fantastic. So one of the things that I saw with the all 22 view when you were zoomed out was when they went to punting or kicking situations, they sub off everyone.
Yeah.
It seemed like there was just a mass exodus and entrance of players
Yeah.
from the TCU sideline, whereas Michigan, they had some guys run off and some guys run on, but like it wasn't anything on the scale
Mhm.
that TCU had. So that's definitely something that I thought was interesting. Like, well, if they get down to a late field goal situation,
Mm.
if they're that well coached, then that could be something to watch. Even if they are that well coached, like whenever you're bringing that many guys on and off, like there's always the propensity for, like, if you've been sitting or maybe a false start here or there, or
Right.
if they're bringing those guys off and then putting that many guys on, then that means that they're probably not starting their best players on the special team side of things, at least
Mm.
just intuitively thinking, right? Like if you
Yeah.
like when we have guys, we have like a handful of guys run off and we keep a lot of starters out there for our
Yeah.
special teams plays.
Yeah.
So if you have lesser players playing on special teams on the TCU side, that could be a situation where it sets up nicely for a block field goal, a block
Mm.
punt, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, that
Yeah.
was definitely something that I noticed about the special teams.
Okay. Nice. Then on our end, would love to see Jackpot get back on track. I mean, granted, I'd love for him to not have to kick any field goals because we're just scoring touchdowns, but should he run out there? No, we need him. We need him to get back there.
Uh,
I don't know. Get away from Mercedes Benz, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
I would love him. I would love him to go out with a bang of sorts, but not so much a bang where it's like a game winner.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't need the nervousness for that. Fair enough.
Right. I'd also like to see Thorson impact the game because I feel like that, when we do come down to punting, which I don't think we're going to be doing a whole lot of. But that said, I feel like our punting game is much better than their punting game because what I saw from TCU was not super impressive from a punt, like a punt standpoint. So,
Yeah,
um, there
that
could be some
tracks.
opportunities. There could be some opportunities.
Could be some opportunities for the unofficial official wide receiver of My God Podcast, Kyrus Jackson, in the punt return game. He had a big one against Peach Bowl. Maybe in the Peach Bowl. Maybe he's due for a big one here. That'd be amazing.
Absolutely.
That would be amazing.
Yes.
All right, let's hit you good to hit the listener questions?
Let's see. I think so. Yeah, I think I went over the special teams. I will say, like, the one huge huge play in the Michigan TCU game was Michigan's kicker hit I believe it was a 59-yard field goal to end the half, or to virtually end the half.
Mm-hmm.
Something to watch out for Jackpot if he has to blast a kick. Like I said, if they're playing their worst, not their worst players, but like if they're playing not their starters kind of thing, maybe he might have an opportunity to hit a super long one, a career long one. Because that was that kid's I think it tied his career long 59 yards or something like that, that's a long way, dude.
Yeah, that is. That's legit. That's legit.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit the listener questions.
Let's hit them.
First up, we got 51-7 GATA. as we get ready for the world's smallest outdoor cocktail party due to no tailgating at SoFi Stadium, do you believe the Natty should be at the Rose Bowl every year, as some in the media have mentioned? Also, hats off to the fans this past Saturday, especially the ones in Section 321. So shout out to the 321 crew. What do you think? What do you think about like having a single championship venue? No. So to you, the problem
never
is
going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, probably not.
Just based on the, I mean, it's like the World Cup, man. Like, do you think that the World Cup really wants the game in Qatar? No, they want it in a place like Buenos Aires or London or they want it in these typical, like, these cities like Los Angeles, which I get it, like the Rose Bowl's in Los Angeles, but like they're going to make so much more money having the game at SoFi than they would at the Rose Bowl. Matter of fact, I feel like that if they want the game at the Rose Bowl, like when the Rose Bowl comes around, it's like, all right, fine, I guess we'll play that at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess I just feel like they're not picking the best places as far as knowing the sport and knowing the fans and accommodating the fans. Like
100%.
Like Indianapolis.
That's not what they're interested in.
That's not the goal. Yeah, the goal is money. Yeah, you're right. It's when the question is why, the answer is
yeah. And the question is why, it's always money. Yeah.
But it's just it's so frustrating because I will say like the layout of Indianapolis was great. Like the layout is great city. It was just so, I mean, it was January. Like, it was freezing. I didn't want to tailgate there anyway. So, like, I didn't care so much about tailgate options there because we just wanted to go inside the stadium because we were freezing.
Right.
But, like, LA is going to be nice. I mean, I went to the Rose Bowl in 2017 and we tailgated, I mean, it was great outside. So, kind of a bummer. I mean, I'm sure people will find a way. I know we've already found a way. So,
I would say that there's probably like more that the universities and the conferences could probably do to pressure that type of conversation. It's just a matter of if anybody at the table where these decisions are made has the intestinal fortitude to fight for what fans want.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right, let's see. Fletcher Proctor, what 4 special guest captains from Georgia's past would you send out there for the honorary coin toss? He suggested 4. He had Aaron Murray, Jarvis Jones, Champ Bailey, and John Stinchcomb. That was his list.
I believe Jarvis is a coach, so he couldn't go out there.
True.
Stinchcomb is a broadcast person. I don't think that he can go out there. I would say that Aaron Murray absolutely would be in that vein. I would say DJ Shockley would also be in that vein.
But he's working too.
Yeah, but he can't go. Yeah. I know that this may be controversial for some, but Herschel Walker would be one to throw out there as well.
Herschel's on my list. I had Herschel, and my standpoint there was the election is over. That's not a political thing anymore. He can just be Herschel again.
It's always going to be political, Jim. Listen, well, I know how these things work.
Fair enough.
David Pollock would be another one. However, he's going to also be working, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Let's see. Nick Chubb would be on my list as well.
He's a good one. I was going to say I would go like Herschel, Lindsey Scott, Buck Bellew. I was going to go back to 80, throw out some guys from the 80 team.
You're going to drag the 80s guys out there?
I'm doing that because they were the only other undefeated consensus national champions. And that's what this team is vying to do.
Ooh, I like the vibe you're going for with that. Like, we're sending out our other consensus undefeated team out here to flex on you guys.
So that's what I would do.
It would almost be like passing the torch, right?
Right. Exactly.
I like that.
Exactly.
I like that.
Okay. Nice. That's what we'll go with. I have to include for Fletcher because I know Fletcher's a big Georgia basketball fan. I'm going to do the Georgia basketball minute very quickly. Georgia beat Auburn in basketball tonight.
I saw that
in the SEC opener. I think it's the first time Georgia's won the SEC opener since. I already forgot what the answer. I think it was like 2016 or something like that. Something crazy. Mike White and the Hoop Dogs are 11-3, which I believe they have the same record as Auburn, and obviously 1-0 in the SEC. So great start to the season for Mike White. in the Dogs, far exceeding my expectations thus far. I did not think they would be like that. The team is gelling and coming together. Next game is at Florida on Saturday. So that was the Georgia Basketball Minute.
Florida
Let's
on
see.
Saturday. What time's the game on Saturday?
I have no idea what time the game is at.
Is it on TV?
Should be. I'll say too. In general,
The way that you
these
guys
games-
are talking, like these guys are fun to watch. So I feel like I need to like take a little bit more interest in this season.
they are fun to watch. They're definitely fun to watch, and it's like the interesting thing is like I saw some numbers tonight around like how many different guys are playing. There has not been. I don't believe we've had the same starting lineup like in back-to-back games all season. Like the lineup is continuously changing. Kario Kendo, was a guy that was in the portal and we're able to keep, and he's a lot of fun to watch still. Got some big guys that are playing pretty well. Braylon Bridges. It's a fun team. It's a fun team.
I like it. Maybe Fletcher Jim's talking me into being a hoop dog more so than I ever have.
Nice. All right, let's see. Okay, we have 2 questions on Duggan. So I'm going to read them both, and then we can just talk to them together. So first off, Chad Jarvis said, do we not pressure Duggan like we did Stroud and play to stop the pass, or do we dial up more pressure and hope to slow TCU down? And then, so new name, so SC Dog 864 is Zach. He's got Decade of the Dog as his Twitter name right now. But so he said, do you think Max Duggan can make the same impact against our defense that Stroud did? Not on the same level, but Duggan loves to use his legs. So the interesting thing there is that with Duggan did finish above Stroud in the Heisman voting. But I think Stroud is Stroud's special. He's unique. He's going to be drafted very highly. He was very impressive. I think Duggan is a very different player. I didn't mention this earlier. He also has if you don't know his story, you're gonna learn it. He's got an interesting background. He lost the starting job to start the season. He had been a 3-year starter at TCU. In the COVID year, or he was getting a COVID test and they found an issue with his heart and he had to have the emergency surgery. And then he had to kind of decide am I going to keep playing football or not. And he came back. So you're going to be well versed in that by the end of the game on Monday night, I'm sure. But so he's got a good story. He's got a lot of heart. But I think the big thing here to me is, again, with Duggan and his legs, we're going to have a plan for that. I don't think that wasn't the focus with Stroud and Abitus, but it's going to be the focus for the defense this week.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think it's going to be a focus for sure.
But I think you were saying you're thinking that we will blitz, right? We're not going to kind of sit back to play a stuff to pass. You're thinking we're going to try to develop some pressure on him, right?
So, I mean, this kid's accuracy is nowhere near what CJ Stroud's was. So it may be like a situation where we sit back and just kind of show me what you got kind of guy. Mm-hmm. I do think that we will want to dial up pressure based on what I saw on film with Michigan. Michigan's defense is very similar to ours in terms of what they've been able to control the points and all that stuff. I get the schedules and stuff, but all things being equal, they've been a pretty dominant defense. And frankly, had the Michigan offense not sucked as horrible, and if Harbaugh wasn't as horrible of a big game coach as he was in that game, we might be playing the Wolverines because they left a lot of points on the board, man. A lot of points.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that from what I saw there, they were able. The defense wasn't their problem in that game. It was the offense. So
right.
And what I saw was a lot of pressure in the second half, and that's how they were able to come back so quickly. Was creating pressure, creating a lot of mismatched timing, impacting the timing of those receivers. They got some tip balls, which I'm going to be looking for our guys to be, getting their hands up, because a couple of the interceptions that he threw were on tip balls off the defensive line. So Get pressure, get some tip balls, and maybe we can get some interceptions out of it, just like Michigan did, that were kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't see him. I mean, it's like Duggan only threw for 225 against Michigan. I mean, Wood Stroud had like 348 yards passing, plus whatever he had rushing. So I don't. After as mad as everyone, because Kirby and company are ticked off about the way Ohio State's offense played against our defense. No bigger motivator than that. I think they're going to be out to prove a point. So I don't see it. Not saying it's out of the realm of possibility. I mean, this guy's finished second in the Heisman voting. So, but I don't think it'll be as big of an impact.
Yep. Agreed.
All right. JT, the dog father of TikTok fame. Be sure you're following the dog father on Twitter and TikTok. If Stet wins back-to-back natties, is he not only the best Georgia quarterback of all time, but possibly the best player to ever step on the turf at Sanford Stadium? I think the word best is where you're going to get tripped up because you're going to have people argue with you if you go that. I actually heard on 960 The Ref, which I know JT listens to 960 as well. Scott and Logan had, I think they were talking to Chip Towers and I said Scott, sorry, David Johnson. David and Logan were talking to Chip Towers, and I think David asked a similar question, but I think he said like not best, but like greatest or something like that. Because because people are going to say, well, Matthew Stafford is a better quarterback than Stetson Bennett. But I mean, as far as legacy and everything, I mean, if again, we've got there was a well caveated question of if he wins back to back. I mean, yeah. I mean, no one else can lay that claim and have that legacy. And then you add the backstory. I mean, it can't be topped.
Yeah. Well, let me just frame it to you this way, JT. At the end of the Disney movie that's going to happen, Stetson's going to be walking off into the sunset at Sanford Stadium. And then they're going to have like the end credits where all the little words and all this kind of stuff comes up, and it talks about, Jamin Stanton went on to be, an NFL All-American. Stetson Bennett, went on to be governor of Georgia, or whatever. These kinds of things.
Yes.
And then at the very end is going to say, ended his career as the greatest quarterback ever in the University of Georgia, and it is his career as the greatest player ever at the University of Georgia.
I like it. Fair. All right. Let's see. Last one. Will Kaplan. He said -12.5 feels like too many points. What does Vegas know? He thinks the spread is too big. I think it seems about it seems right. We'll get to some of my numbers, but it seems right based on some of the things that I'm looking at. I'll say that.
They know what we saw in the Michigan game, Will. So they saw the Michigan game, and they saw the points that Michigan left on the field. I mean, Michigan had 3 or 4 drives literally die on the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
So they left, 20 plus points ish out on the field. At best, at worst, they left, 9, 12 points on the field, which would have impacted the game pretty substantially. Just kind of like if we'd have made our field goals, it would have impacted the game pretty substantially, I feel like.
Yeah, it's true.
We left points on the field. So there was a lot of opportunities. I feel bad because I was almost texting him to check my vibe to feel like if what I was watching tracked with my Michigan buddy. So today I watched that all 22 view with TCU versus Michigan, and at halftime I remember texting him. I was like, "How are you guys losing this game?" I don't understand.
After the fact.
I don't understand how you guys are losing this game. First of all, why was Jim Harbaugh calling that 4th down play? That just seems so stupid. You'll never see Kirby Smart make a call like that, I feel like.
Yeah.
Getting cute that early in the game just smacks of desperation, and frankly probably deserved to lose the game based off of just that one call. But yeah, I don't know, man. I saw points left on the board. I saw ability to move the ball pretty effectively in the second half. If you were to sustain that over 4 quarters with Georgia's elite athletes, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, I think that I think that it's right. I think it's a fairly decent line. I was surprised at first, but the more I started looking at it, was like Vegas just knows, man.
Yeah, and it has moved actually. It did drop by 1 point. It opened at 13. It was 13 and a half when I initially put my notes together for this episode earlier this week, and it's now moved down to 12 and a half. So
I believe that part of that line movement has to be like the mattress whatever dude from TCU that's like dropped. Have you seen this guy?
Wait, what?
There's a big gambler guy. He's like Mattress Matty or something like that.
Okay.
What was he called?
I thought there was something going on with actual mattresses. That's just like his handle or something? Or does he like own a mattress store? Like what's going on with this?
Mattress Mac is what he's called. I guess he's like some Texas guy.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like some Texas guy from Houston. I don't know if he's a TCU alumni or donor or what, but like he dropped a bunch of money on Michigan, or on TCU to win this game. I think so. He's put like $1.5 million on this game.
Really?
Yeah. So I was reading about this. So like if he wins, he's gonna win like $8 million or something like that.
Okay. So I guess he put it on like the money line or whatever. So he put it up for them to win outright.
He put it on the money line. So I guess that I don't know if he put like a combination of bets, but like if someone said like if they win and or cover, then he wins X amount of dollars. So I don't know. That might have been some of the movement there because that's a lot of scratch.
Interesting. I was gonna add a nugget for Will. There are 2 Raising Canes in the LA area. So
Will's going to the game, I believe.
If you need your Raising Canes fix, Will, because I know you don't have any locally, you can get it done. There's one actually between, like it looks like it's between LAX and SoFi. So just a heads up.
If you do, please tag us in your photos. I'd love to see it.
Absolutely.
So he's actually placed. I said 1.5. He's actually placed a $3 million total Mattress Mac.
Wow, crazy!
And if he wins, he would make $8 million.
That's ridiculous. Okay, we have totally gone off the rails.
We've totally gone off the rails.
Okay, so let's see. Yeah, so that was the last one. So we'll move on to knowing that it is now time for.
My God, a freshman.
Trying to put glasses on it.
It is time for Coach Truebill's over-unders, National Championship Edition. All right, John, you get to choose first. Do you want to go or do you want me to go? Because you are still in the lead.
All right, so we're at coaches under overs. I'll let you go first.
Okay. Over-under. Georgia, 295 passing yards. I'm going to go over.
I will also go over.
Over, under, your turn. Over, under, Georgia rushing yards at 175.
I'm going to go over.
In order to catch up, I'm going to fade you. I'm just kidding. I don't know. What do I do here? Over, under 175. I'm actually going to, let's see, but I want them to go over. Oh my gosh. Do I care more about the over-unders or I'm going to care about the offense? I'm going to see over. Up next, over-under different players that score. Over-under is at 3.5. I'm going to take the over.
I'm also going to take the over.
Oh, see, you're just copying me.
No, I'm not.
I'm just kidding.
But there is some math involved in this.
I know. I did some too. Wait, I was told there would be no math. Okay. I think it's your turn. Over to the defense. Max Duggan rushing yards over under 65.
I think he's going to go over.
Okay, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to in Kirby we trust, in defense we trust. Let's see. TCU first half points over under 16.5. I'm going to take the under.
I'm going to also take the under.
Okay. And then TCU over under 400 total yards.
Under.
Okay. I'm also under. Let's see. Special teams. Jackpot field goal attempts over under 3.5. This is attempts. I'm going to say under.
I'm also under.
Okay. And it's miscellaneous Munsoning moments over under too many.
I'm gonna go under. Sorry, bro.
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna say under as well, and I'm gonna say because we've said Munsoning is dead.
Munsoning is dead.
We don't need a Munson. Don't Munson. It's not gonna do you any good. Not gonna do you good. Awesome. Well, Coach Trill, thank you again for providing us with the coaches over unders for the entire season and tracking them for us.
And tracking them.
It's been an absolute blast. Absolute blast. We love it. All right. Time for the final predictions. So let's run through some kind of data points that we've got going in here. So the CBC R2 Sam from the guys over at Chapel Bell Curve and Dog Point, they are predicting Georgia
Prepare
to
yourself.
win.
Prepare yourself.
Yes,
Prepare
Georgia.
yourself. Will get ready for this.
Will's gonna get see where the 12.5 came from. So they've got Georgia 35.7 to TCU 15.2. John, you want to hit Will and everyone else around with how accurate CBC R2 Sam has been this year? Do you still have that up? If not, I can pull it up.
I thought that I did. I think they're 72% accurate on straight up.
Correct. Yeah. So they're straight up. They're 73% on the year, and then against the spread, they're at 56.5%. And they had a pretty tight game predicted for Georgia and Ohio State. So they know what they're doing. Looking at OddsShark for the numbers, so the spread, like we talked about, Georgia is favored by 12.5. Over under is 60. Don't even
look at it.
Over under is 63. That gives an implied score of 37.75 for Georgia to TCU 25.25. The OddsShark predicted score is Georgia 44.2 to TCU 31.3. So that would be a win, that would be a cover, and the over. I mentioned the whole scoring impact thing earlier, where Georgia is holding opponents to 12.98 points less than they score, and Georgia is scoring 12.28 more points on teams than they allow against the Power Five in both of those. If you apply those differentials to TCU's averages, that would give you a score of Georgia 38.86 to TCU 26.52. So that actually lines up pretty well with the spread as well. So, Will, I think that there are other metrics that are pointing to this stuff. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. It's like one of the things that I saw the TCU Twitter was tweeting out earlier today was like, it was that meme of the bus, and there's a guy looking out the window, and he's looking at this bright shining mountains and all these kinds of things with a smile on his face that says, "Why not us?" And then on the other side of the bus was someone looking dark and gloomy and sad, and it said stats.
Yes.
The stats are not in your favor in this game for TCU fans. There's really no other way to shake it.
Yep. You want me to go first, or do you want to go?
I guess, yeah.
I guess I'll go. I think I've been going first. I'll go first. So, a couple of things, just like on what's on the line here. Georgia has a chance to tie the longest winning streak in school history at 17 wins. So, if you go back to last year's national championship game, we won 16 in a row. This would be 17. That happened. We did that from 1945 through 1947. The Dogs won 17 in a row, so to be able to match that with this win. And then another just kind of fun thing, mentioned it earlier in passing, but the only other undefeated consensus national champion Georgia team was the 1980 team, and that team also beat TCU. So I've got the Dogs winning. I've got the Dogs winning this game. I'm going to go Georgia 38, TCU 27.
Ooh, I like it. Yeah, I have 36-21.
Okay.
I like 36-15 or 36-14 or whatever, but I have a feeling there'll be some desperation garbage time, like just desperately trying to score touchdowns yet again. Yeah. I mean, I think this is a good football team. It's pretty amazing that they've done this in year one under Sonny Dykes. It's pretty crazy. It's not. I'll be honest. It's not surprising to me.
You don't think it's not?
No,
Well, they were picked
'cause
like
it's-
seventh in the Big Ten or Big Ten, the Big 12. I think they were picked like to finish like seventh in the league this year.
So they hired a guy that comes from an air raid offense and takes over in a conference that is literally like built for the air raid offense.
Yeah.
And they also have got Gary Patterson had done a really good job of recruiting players. So like
Yeah.
if Sonny Dykes comes from the he comes from the Mike Leach tree, right? So he has all these players that are already on campus on the defensive side. And then he just maximizes his talent with the offensive players, which is literally what Mike Leach does. So it shouldn't be that surprising. What's going to be surprising to me, and frankly, it was going to be a better measure of like what their program is able to generate and what he's able to do as a coach, is whether or not he can replenish those defensive players, because Gary Patterson was always like a huge defensive guy, right? Like they've been opportunistic on the defense side. Like if you erase the defensive wins that they had against Michigan, I think Michigan wins that game pretty handedly. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out in year 5 and 6 when these guys graduate or whatever. Yeah. But I would say that the prestige was there for Gary Patterson. He just never could get over the hump because I don't think he was offensively geared.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyway, that's my take.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Well, cool. Well, like I said, definitely a different feel last year, but I think you hit the nail on the head. Like it's not like this. It's not the common enemy. The monkey, get the monkey off your back, like we had with Alabama, where they were, they were always the roadblock and what was in our way. I mean, and this also, I will say too, like we got some variety in the playoff this year, in the last 2 years, right? So you had Cincinnati make it in last year, TCU make it in this year. And I think, maybe the college football, I think the committee did a good job. I think they got the best 4 teams in this year. I think TCU was probably the biggest question mark, not Ohio State, because like I said, I felt like Ohio State was probably the toughest out in the field for us. But like, TCU went out there, beat Michigan. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all changes. This sport is about to change big time in 2 years when the playoff field expands to 12. You've got an opportunity right in front of you here, in the penultimate year of the 14 playoff to go out there, go back to back with Stetson Bennett, write that final chapter. Let's go do it. Let's go take advantage of it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, let's go ahead and take down another Heisman candidate. Like this will be the third Heisman candidate that we've played. Yeah, man. I'll take those accolades, because I don't think you're ever going to find a quarterback or a team that's going to be asked to play this many like incredible quarterbacks in their entire season.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Well, I know I'll be out there. So sorry if the texts aren't flowing quite as much. The text better be
flowing.
The texts actually were flowing. Now that I remember, now I say that, now that I'm remembering back, the texts were flowing like crazy when I was in Indianapolis last year. So I guess I shouldn't even say that. The text will be flowing during the game, I'm sure.
we got to live vicariously through all of you people, and it doesn't have to be Jim. It can be anybody. Tag the podcast. We'll see it.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure, definitely.
I want to see the dog take over, man, because apparently, from what I understand, TCU sent back tickets from their allotment to this game.
I saw that today, actually. I saw that in that thread with the guy trying to make the Athens Greece joke. That was super lame.
Yeah. And apparently, like, because I had that thought today, I was like, I wonder if you can buy tickets through TCU's ticket office and they're sold out. But apparently that had hit the dog vent.
Oh, right. Yes, I did see that. I saw that. Yeah, man. I do expect it to be. I mean, like you brought it up last week, right? Like Georgia fans had already made all the plans. Hotels were booked. Flights have been booked for a while. I think we're ready. I think it's going to be another dog takeover and Danny Angeles.
Yeah, I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of Georgia people there.
Yeah,
a lot of flights dried up out of Atlanta. I'll say that too when I was looking at it. So
yeah, yep.
Get her done, and send me the pictures.
We'll do.
And if there's confetti, please grab me some.
Yes. I actually, yeah. So now that yes. Okay. Noted.
Grab all the confetti.
All the confetti. Yes, I know how to do that. Now I know how to do that.
Take some gallon bags with you. They'll be like, "Why do you have all these gallon bags?" Like, don't worry about it.
That's too funny. Love it. Cool, man. All right, dude. Well, we got a little bit longer to go until it's here, with it being a Monday. So, everyone rest up over the weekend and get ready for Monday night.
Yep. Can I get the run in on Monday?
Ooh, yeah, Monday run for you. Absolutely.
Yeah, Monday run. Yep. Which will track nicely. I'll probably be wearing my Georgia sweatshirt for the workout on Monday.
Nice. Good deal.
All right, man. Well, have fun. I'm gonna be super jealous, but go Dogs.
Go Dogs.